She cheated, then begged for forgiveness, crying, "I'll do anything to fix this." I told her to prove it by transferring the car she put in her name, but that I paid for, back to me. The moment the title was in my hand, I replied, "Thank you, this is fixed." She discovered what I meant when I drove away and blocked her number. The picture that ended my world arrived on a Tuesday night. It was a simple text from a friend who was supposed to be on a business trip. The text just said, "Isn't that your car?" Attached was a photo taken from across a restaurant patio. In the photo, my girlfriend of 5 years, Megan, was leaning across a table, her hand on another man's cheek, laughing in that intimate way you only laugh with someone you're sleeping with. And parked right behind them, unmistakable under the streetlights, was the deep blue sedan I had paid for in cash 6 months earlier. I stared at the photo for a long time. There was no rage, no shouting, just a profound and sudden silence in my head. It was the silence of a machine that has just been switched off. The complex, whirring engine of our relationship, the plans, the memories, the future we were supposed to be building, had seized. The car was the key to everything. 6 months ago, we needed a new, reliable vehicle. I had the money saved up, a little over $30,000 from a series of good investments. But Megan's insurance rates were significantly lower than mine due to a spotless driving record. So we made a practical decision. I would pay for the car in full, but we would put the title and registration in her name to save a few $100s a year on the insurance premium. It was a gesture of complete and total trust. I was handing her a $30,000 asset, believing we were a team, that my property was her property, and her name on the title was just a formality. I now realized that to her, it wasn't a formality. It was leverage. I waited for her to come home. I didn't pace. I didn't drink. I just sat in the living room in the dark, the screen of my phone glowing with the picture of her betrayal. When she walked in around 11, humming, she was surprised to see me. "Oh, you're still up," she said cheerfully. "I just had the longest dinner with Sarah from accounting. Her life is such a mess." I didn't say a word. I just turned my phone around and showed her the picture. The transformation was instantaneous. The color drained from her face. The cheerful mask melted away, replaced by a slack-jawed panic. She stammered, trying to form words, but her brain couldn't catch up to the reality of the situation. Who sent you that?" She finally managed to whisper. "Does it matter?" I asked, my voice flat. "The only thing that matters is that it's real." And then came the flood. The predictable, messy, desperate flood of tears and denials. It wasn't what it looked like. He was just a friend. She was just comforting him. They had a little too much to drink. Every pathetic excuse in the cheater's handbook came pouring out of her. I let her go on until she had exhausted herself. I just sat there, a silent, immovable object against which her storm of lies crashed and broke. When she finally ran out of steam, she collapsed onto the floor in front of me, sobbing. "Please, Kevin," she cried, grabbing my knees. "Please don't leave me. It was a mistake, a stupid, horrible mistake. I'll do anything to fix this. Anything, I swear." I looked down at her, this crying, broken person on my floor, and I felt nothing. The love was gone, cauterized by the image on my phone. All that was left was a cold, practical problem to be solved. She had created a mess, and I needed to clean it up. Her words, however, echoed in my head. "I'll do anything to fix this." An idea began to form, a clean, simple, logical solution. A way to test her words, a way to correct the fundamental imbalance she had created. I reached down and gently pulled her hands off my legs. I looked her in the eye. "Anything?" I asked, my voice quiet. She nodded frantically, her eyes wide with a desperate, pathetic hope. "Yes, anything, okay," I said. "But I believe in actions, not words. Words are cheap right now, Megan. Your words mean nothing to me. If you are truly sorry, if you truly want to prove that you are willing to do anything to fix the trust you have broken, there is one thing you can do." I paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. "Tomorrow," I said, "we are going to the DMV. You are going to sign the title of the car over to me. The car that I paid for, you are going to put the legal ownership in the name of the person who actually owns it. It will be a gesture. A sign that you are willing to give up the leverage you hold over me. A sign that you are truly sorry and want to rebuild from zero. If you do that, we can talk about fixing this. If you don't, then I know everything you've said tonight is a lie, and we are finished." Her tear-streaked face was a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. She understood, on some level, what I was asking. I was asking her to give up her only real asset, but her desperation was greater than her greed. She saw it as a test she could pass, a hoop she could jump through to get back to the comfortable life she had just thrown away. "Okay," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Okay, I'll do it." I just nodded. "Good," I said. "Then maybe there's a chance for us." I went to bed in the spare room that night. She thought it was because I was angry. The truth was, I just didn't want to be near her. The deal was struck. The plan was in motion. She thought she was taking the first step toward forgiveness. In reality, she was signing her own termination papers. Update 1. The next 3 days were a masterclass in manipulation. Megan was playing the part of the perfect, repentant girlfriend. She woke up early and made me coffee, just the way I like it. She cleaned the entire apartment until it was spotless. She sent me a constant stream of texts throughout the day, telling me how much she loved me, how sorry she was, and how she couldn't wait to prove her commitment to me. It was a disgusting performance. Every act of kindness felt like a transaction. Every loving word felt like a lie designed to keep me on the hook until she could figure out a new angle. I played my part too. I was distant but not cold. I was hurt but willing to be convinced. I'd reply to her texts with simple, non-committal answers like "okay" or "thank you." I was giving her just enough hope to keep her moving forward with the plan. The biggest hurdle was the logistics of the title transfer. I spent a full day online, looking up our state-specific requirements. I downloaded the official bill of sale form and the application for title and registration. I filled out my sections with meticulous care. I made an appointment at the main DMV branch for Friday morning, knowing it would be less crowded. On Thursday night, I presented her with the paperwork. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the same table where we used to plan our lives together. Now, it was the site of a legal transaction. "Here are the forms," I said, pushing them across the table. "You just need to sign here as the seller, and here on the title itself. I've filled out the rest. We have an appointment at 9 tomorrow morning." She picked up the papers, her hands trembling slightly. She was looking at a legal document that would transfer a $30,000 asset out of her name for the symbolic price of $1. This was the moment of truth. The moment her greed would fight her desperation. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Are you sure about this, Kevin? It feels so formal." "Trust is a formal thing, Megan," I said, my voice even. "You broke it. This is the only way I can see to begin fixing it. This is you showing me that you have no intention of holding anything over me. That we are starting clean." She stared at the papers for a long time. I could see the gears turning in her head. She was weighing the value of the car against the value of the comfortable life she had with me. In the end, her desperation won. She took the pen and signed her name in all the required spots. The next morning, the drive to the DMV was silent and tense. She kept trying to make small talk, but I just kept my eyes on the road. We walked in, took a number, and waited. When our number was called, we walked up to the counter together. I handed the signed paperwork to the clerk. The clerk, a bored-looking woman who had clearly seen it all, processed the documents with robotic efficiency. She stamped the title, typed something into her computer, and then handed me a temporary registration card. "Your new title will arrive in the mail in 4 to 6 weeks, she said without looking up. Next. It was done. The car was legally, officially, and irrevocably mine. As we walked out of the DMV and back into the bright morning sun, Megan let out a huge sigh of relief. She turned to me and wrapped her arms around my waist, burying her face in my chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me a chance. I promise I will never, ever let you down again. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you." I stood there for a moment, letting her hold me. I even patted her on the back. "Thank you, Megan," I said, my voice clear and calm. "This is fixed." She looked up at me, a hopeful, teary smile on her face. She thought I meant our relationship was fixed. She had no idea what I really meant. I gently unwrapped her arms from around me. I took a step back. Then I walked around to the driver's side of the deep blue sedan, opened the door, and got in. I started the engine. She stood there on the curb, a look of confusion on her face. I rolled down the window. I looked at her one last time. "The problem," I said, "was that you held a $30,000 asset that I paid for. You just signed it back over to me. So yes, the problem is now fixed." I put the car in drive. As I pulled away from the curb, I saw her face twist from confusion into pure, unadulterated horror as the meaning of my words finally hit her. I didn't look back. I just drove away, leaving her standing alone in the parking lot of the DMV. Then I pulled out my phone, opened her contact, and blocked her number. Update 2. The first 48 hours after I left Megan at the DMV were a predictable symphony of chaos, all of which I observed from a calm, secure distance. I drove from the DMV straight to my parents' house, which was about an hour away. I knew I couldn't go back to our apartment immediately. I needed a clean operational base, and I needed to let the initial storm pass without me in the middle of it. The frantic calls started within minutes, just as I knew they would. First, from a string of no-caller ID numbers. Then from her friends' phones. Then from her mother. I didn't answer a single one. My phone was on silent, face down on the table. Each buzz was just another confirmation that my plan had been executed flawlessly. The real escalation came on Saturday morning. I got a call from a local police officer. Megan had reported the car as stolen. I had been waiting for this. It was the only move she had left. A desperate, foolish attempt to use the authorities to undo the consequences of her own actions. I answered the phone calmly. "Yes, officer, this is Kevin," I said. The officer explained that a Ms. Megan Peters had filed a report stating that I had stolen her vehicle. He asked for my side of the story. "Officer," I said, my voice steady and professional, "that is incorrect. I did not steal the vehicle. The vehicle was legally transferred into my name yesterday morning at the main branch of the Department of Motor Vehicles. Miss Peters willingly and in person signed over the title and all necessary paperwork in front of a state employee. I have the temporary registration in my glove box, and the state will be mailing me the new title. I believe you'll find that the vehicle is legally and rightfully mine." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "She signed the title over to you?" the officer asked, a note of surprise in his voice. "Yes, sir. As of approximately 9:15 a.m. yesterday. The transaction is logged in the state system. She is no longer the legal owner of the vehicle." I could almost hear the officer shaking his head. "Okay, sir. Thank you for clarifying. We'll be in touch if we need anything else." That was the end of that. She had tried to use the law as a weapon, and it had backfired completely. By filing a false police report, she had only managed to create an official record of her own desperate, failed scheme. With that threat neutralized, I moved on to the next phase, reclaiming my apartment. I drove back on Sunday. I had already called a locksmith and arranged for him to meet me there. As he was changing the locks, Megan's father showed up. He was a decent man who I had always gotten along with, and he looked exhausted and ashamed. "Kevin," he said, standing awkwardly on the lawn. "Megan is a mess. I don't understand what happened." I didn't invite him in. I just stood in the doorway. "What happened," I said, "is that your daughter cheated on me. When I caught her, she begged for a second chance. I told her the only way to prove she was serious was to sign over the title to the car that I paid for in cash. She agreed. She signed the papers. I took my car and left. That's the whole story." He just sighed, the fight going out of him. "She said you tricked her." "I asked her to correct a legal imbalance that was based on trust," I replied. "She broke the trust, so I corrected the imbalance. There was no trick. It was a simple, direct consequence of her actions." I told him that Megan had until the end of the week to arrange for her things to be picked up. I told him I would pack them myself and leave them in the garage for him to collect. He just nodded, mumbled an apology, and left. The fight was over. Final update. It has been 6 months since I drove away from the DMV. My life has been quiet, productive, and entirely my own. I kept my word and packed up all of Megan's belongings. Her father came by the following Saturday with a U-Haul trailer and cleared everything out of the garage. It was a silent, somber transaction. He didn't say much, but his eyes told me he knew exactly who his daughter was. The story of what happened spread through our mutual friends. Megan's version, that I had tricked her and stolen her car, didn't hold up against the simple, verifiable facts. The fact that she had signed the title over herself at the DMV was an undeniable checkmate. There was no way for her to spin herself as the victim. The last I heard, she had to move back in with her parents. Without a car and without my income to support her lifestyle, her world shrank considerably. The man she cheated on me with, a coworker of hers, apparently wanted nothing to do with her once the affair was exposed and the drama began. He was married, of course. She lost her partner, her home, her car, and her affair, all in the span of a few days. As for me, I sold the car. I couldn't look at it anymore without thinking of her. I got almost exactly what I paid for it, and used the money as a down payment on a small house, a place that is entirely mine, with no one else's name on any of the paperwork. Looking back, I don't see my actions as revenge. I see them as a correction, a restoration of balance. The relationship was an investment of time, love, and money. When she proved that her investment was worthless, I simply liquidated the assets. Her final, desperate plea was, "I'll do anything to fix this." She thought this was our relationship, but she was wrong. This was the fundamental injustice of her holding legal title to an expensive asset she had not earned and did not deserve, all while betraying the trust that put it in her name. I took her at her word. I told her how to fix it. She did. And the moment she signed that paper, the problem was indeed fixed. She just misunderstood which problem I was solving. She thought she was saving our future. In reality, she was just settling her debt, and I was free.